Hey, this is Brian Tankersley. Welcome to the P.A.R.I.S instructional video. Myself, Aaron, Allen, Chuck Duffy, all welcome you to hopefully what will be some instruction that will be helpful in your use of the P.A.R.I.S system. What you're hearing in the background is the song that we'll be using for the primary demonstration here. It's a song called Starry Sky by Jesse Dale. It's a demo I did about 18 months ago. I've forgotten a lot about what we did and how we did it, so I pulled it back up as an example where I can kind of reacquaint myself with what's going on along with you, hopefully, so I won't zoom by things too fast. Let me go ahead and kill that for a second. I want to start off with a few general comments on system setup. Flip into the view from behind me if we're not already. You can see that I'm running four 18-inch flat panels at this point. And though that may be a little excessive for some folks, I do think at least a dual head, as cheap as dual head cards are now, I mean everybody, NVIDIA, ATI, Matrox, everybody's making dual heads now. And a pair of 19-inch monitors is just a really good investment if you don't have something at least that big. 1280 by 1024 is the preferred P.A.R.I.S resolution. Has to be in at least 16-bit color to work correctly. At 1280 by 1024, you're able to see an entire 16-channel mixer in its entirety. The second monitor is a huge help. You can see that what I've got set up here is I'm looking right now at two mixers and two editors, full size. Everything's real comfortable size for me to work off of. 32 channels at a glance. I'm also using a freeware applet called Virtual Desktop that will be available on the P.A.R.I.S, thegreatidea.com/P.A.R.I.S website. Free. That gives you, like some of the other utilities that come with some of the video cards, it gives you the ability to have multiple Windows desktops to flick to. In this case, I've assigned my function buttons. You can assign which function buttons what. I have 8 of them set up. This is 1 through 32. Boom. I'm in 33 through 64. Bang. I'm in 65 through 96. Is that right? Whatever it is. And then bang, I'm in 97 through 128. In each case, I'm able to go, if I want to see something on channel 64, there it is, right there. If I want to see something on channel 1, bang, I'm there. Both editor and mixer. Makes things really go fast. It allows me to get around quickly. Having mixed on traditional consoles for 20 years, there's no possible way I could move fast enough to keep up with myself real time. I mean, what I'm saying is even if P.A.R.I.S didn't reset and recall and I had to get into a mix, move quick, close the mix, and move to the next song, could never go back, I still am set up to move faster on P.A.R.I.S than I possibly could on an analog console, large format, NVR, SSL, any of them. So that's my first recommendation, is try to get at least 2 monitors, try to run 1280 1024, try to use some sort of virtual desktop thing that gives you non-resizing, non-buttonitis type of access to this stuff. As well, I would say a macro program is a great idea if you can do that. Right now, I have allocated, and I don't know if you can see this as I'm pointing out, but my numeric keypad has basically sacrificed its functional life to become single-stroke macro keys for P.A.R.I.S. And I have things set up such as, I'll go through them as I'm working, but I have, let me pull an editor window over here. For instance, single-stroke key commands, I have select all, deselect all, select all, again, cut it now line, undo, redo. I have all manner of change tools. You can see I'm changing, well, you may not can see, but I'm changing tools from the time lock to time unlock selector. I'm dropping the crossfade, switching to the scissors, dropping the crossfade bar, turning grid on and off, all sort of stuff that I've set up. Oops, get out of there. That I've set up to work just off of single stroke key commands that are macros that are available. The one I'm using is called Macro Express. Just do a Google search. There's a number of other applets like it. So virtual desktops is cool. That's your friend. Macros for single-stroke key commands from some dedicated keys for commonly used functions. That's your friend. 1280 by 1024 and multiple monitors are your friend. I've also got over here, you can see, this is a little more exotic. It's a dedicated little control surface that's programmable commands, and then I've labeled them up. So I have all manner of zoom in, zoom out, lock, unlock, scroll, don't scroll, go to now line, that kind of thing. Just to find ways to make it intuitive and quick and kind of hassle-free to get to one place to another. Let me say a couple other things, too, just in general comments. I've used P.A.R.I.S and have had a great time using it. Been on P.A.R.I.S for about 3.5 years. Have mixed a lot of records that have done real well in a lot of different genres on the system. But more importantly for me, have been just pleased with the sonic results I've gotten, whether anybody else ever likes them or not. Fortunately for my family, fortunately some people appear to like them as well. I say that to say that I'm going to demonstrate how I use P.A.R.I.S, how I get it to sound the way I like it to sound, what I do that may be different than what someone else does, or an expansion on what someone else does. That doesn't mean it makes it right. That means that's what I do with it. I'm glad for you to sit over my shoulder and watch how it works, but that doesn't mean that how you do something differently is good or better. I don't think I know everything about P.A.R.I.S. I do know a few things. If there's any factual inaccuracies that slip out of my mouth, please forgive. And so there are some things of P.A.R.I.S that are a bit mysterious, that are proprietary and were never fully divulged technically. Those things I'm going to take some guesses at sometimes because they affect what I do and how I do it. If I'm wrong, probably doesn't affect anything in the reality of how it ends up sounding technically. The other thing I would say is if you're watching this video, please be watching a purchased copy. I'm making zero on this video. Don't intend to, have no desire to. This video is a group effort. Aaron Allen's gone far out of his way and above the call of duty to be involved in this thing and pull it together. And it's a group effort by end users to create some funding for additional P.A.R.I.S software and possibly hardware development. Certainly some plugins, some different things. So please contribute by paying for the video if you are using it, if you possess a copy of it, please. Check this out. So not only do I have all the various tracks, however many you may have, but I've also set up automation editor window across 4 screens. I've set up a utility window for some, the various, including the audio window should pop up there. Yep. By the way, one little tip. Close the audio window if you're not using it. Don't just minimize it, but nuke it. If you're recording, it'll parse through the files each time you exit record mode and slow you down a little bit, especially if you get a huger number of files. It does kind of an inventory at the end of every record. This is off the subject, but I don't want to forget about it. So close the audio window when you're not using it. It'll actually speed up P.A.R.I.S snappiness when you're recording at the end of each record exit. All right, and then what else was I going to say? Back over to this guy. The project window. Another basic rudiment of what I'm going to do is not get into the obvious things. This is a fader. Here's an EQ. I'm not going to do that. I'm assuming some basic level of functionality with P.A.R.I.S. This is not an introductional, I just got it. This is a little more of an advanced course in how to push it to some sonic zones and some functionality zones that would be beyond the beginner. So if you don't have a fundamental understanding of P.A.R.I.S, I suggest you sit down with the manual a little bit before diving all the way into this video, or you'll probably be confused and lost. Back over to the project window, though, quickly. Let me hit a couple of things. Configuration. A lot of questions that happen about that. My config right now, I'm running 8 cards, 128 channels. I have a 2 gig Athlon I'm running, and I'm running only 256 megabytes of RAM on the thing right now. I don't find much more than that does Windows ME or 98 any good. My disk I/O size is 128. My disk cache size is 110 megabytes, and my overview cache size is 1400 kilobytes. Manual punch-in delay is long. You will get better punch-in results with a long delay. Since P.A.R.I.S doesn't punch in brutally tight anyway, it doesn't really matter in terms of getting in a little early, but it does give P.A.R.I.S a little more elbow room to do so gracefully, especially on larger track counts. I recommend definitely running the long manual punch delay. That's the config scenario. If you're running a 1 or 2 card system, your disk cache size doesn't need to be that large. Smaller disk I/O sizes will make the response a little quicker to play commands and so forth. Larger will allow you to stream more tracks. With the settings I've got right now, I'm mixing, again, mostly at 16-bit is how I work. But I'm mixing anywhere from 60 to 80, 90 tracks off a single FireWire IDE-based drive on a regular basis with no hassles. Yeah, sure I am. Yes, I really am. No kidding. Am I really, Aaron? Is that? Have you seen that with your own eyes?
I watched it. I watched
Yes.
a 20 gig drive stream it.
Yep. Okay, just being C16 Pro. That's kind of confusing to people. If you have a black-faced C16, use Classic mode. If you have a blue-faced, use Pro mode. Make your life simple. There's really not a huge difference in functionality. Some differences in how you get in and out of automation, arming, and some things, but there's really not a big difference. Just use which one you're labeled for and be happy. Don't worry. There's some, unless you don't want to, in which case you don't have to. The various classes of Windows, I'm going to go through. Last thing I'll say on this little episode here is that I'm only going to hit the windows that do something functionally or sonically that's important. I will hit the editor window, including I'll show how I vocal comp, how I graphically tune with auto-tune and then render back over. I'll show the mixer. I'll show the patch bay. I'll show the audio window for importing and exporting. I'll show that may be it. Automation window. I'm going to show the automation window and some basic functionality with the automation windows. And for now, I'm going to exit with one last thing. If you're not using views, you're wasting time. I mean, you're wasting a lot of time resizing windows. Let me show what I'm talking about real quickly. My mixer window is set up. Views enables me to, it's the view button on your C16, and at that point you'll have a store and a recall capability for up to 99 views per window. It's very simple. I recommend actually, unless you need more than 10 views, don't use double digits. Don't proceed with a 0 for 01, 02. Use a single digit, 0 through 9 or 1 through 9, and store it that way. It just makes it quicker than double tagging a bunch of stuff, and I can't imagine more than 10 views being necessary. In the case of mixer number one, you're looking at on both the camera on me as well as the camera that's the isolated view. And right now, this is my standard layout. But if I want to see a bunch of aux-ins, I'm now seeing a bunch of aux-ins that just kicked out. You can't really see on a single screen because I'm using the whole screen, but my aux-ins just kicked out there. And then if I want to really look at my aux-ins and returns, I just tag that button, and now I'm looking at 16 channels of aux-in, all 8 aux-ins available, a real quick graphic representation. And then I'll just go ahead and slide this over. I'm also looking at all my aux returns as well. So I'm just saying that's just one example. I'll get into some more when I get into the editors. We'll be using them. But that's just one example of how quickly you can get around without just a bunch of resizing and hassle, because I'm able to look at my aux-ins real quick, go out back to where I was. Use your imagination. Views are your friend. And I also recommend that you take one time to sit down and really optimize the P.A.R.I.S initialized configuration, the way it comes up and presents itself. Your grouping options, your view options, your default effects returns you may want to have in place just so you don't have to instantiate them every time, but you've got a reverb, like a plate sitting there, a delay sitting there, waiting just to be used. Go ahead and do that and save it as your default space project in your root folder. And that way, every time you launch P.A.R.I.S, you'll be gold and you'll be ready to start rocking without redoing over and over. I find it's such a simple thing, but so seldom do people, I think, take the time and self-discipline to do so. All right. I've already run past my time limit. I'm going to try to make as many of these things tight and quick as I can. I'm also going to talk quickly. I hope to be able to stay articulate as I go. I'm not a professional clinician. Give me a break. I'll do the best I can. In the meantime, we're going to fade out here. I'll turn on Jesse again. I dig this song. And check with you when we get to the mixer. Thank you. Hi, this is Brian again, back with Mixer Time, Paris mixer time. We have a view and isolation. We're scaling from 1280 to 1024. I don't know that you'll be able to necessarily read the parameters, but I'll try to talk as I pop windows open and run through stuff, so that even if you can't read it yourself, you definitely can see what area of the mixer I'm in, what kind of windows I'm popping open. Here we go. First thing about the mixer I'll say is that you should view it as an analog device. Do not approach Paris mixer as though it were another DAW, an O2R, any of that stuff. It doesn't act like that. It acts much more like an analog piece of equipment. It is interactive, it's non-linear, and in what I think is a subjectively musically pleasing way, at least most of the time. When Paris clips, it sounds different clipping depending upon which stage you clip it in. It's your first clue that it's not a linear device and it's not your normal DAW. Paris mixer does not operate within the rule book that every other DAW I've seen tends to operate in. That is, red is not a bad thing. Like analog consoles, analog tape decks, like guitar amps, like you name it. Red is often a good thing on Paris for aggressive sounding music, which is why have any other kind as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let me start at the very top of the thing and say I'm going to walk really quick through the signal flow from Paris AD in to DA out, assuming the DA out of concern is the stereo mix. I know there's ways to route inserts, there's ways to route aux ins externally, all those kind of things. I'm talking about from an analog microphone input to Paris analog output. Here's what happens. Okay, the way Paris gain structure works from the AD in to the AD out is as follows. Analog to digital conversion at the Mecca 442. Directly to the hard disk with no gain adjustment. The fader on Paris has nothing to do with your record levels. That's totally set in the analog domain before you hit the AD converter. From the hard disk for playback, you then go top to bottom just like it lays out. Native inserts, EDS inserts, EQ section, fader. Aux in can be derived post-fader, which is most normally where it sits for mixing, or pre-fader. And then from the individual channel fader, it's summed into the submix fader for that particular submixer. Those submixers are then summed, up to 8 of them, again at a separate stage, over to the global master fader. On their way to the global master fader, they're routed through the global master inserts. That's pre-fade on the global master. So you can see right away that you have native, okay, outside of your obviously initial record level in the analog domain. You have 1 native, 2 EDS inserts, 3 EDS EQ, 4 channel fader, 5 submix fader, 6 EDS insert on the global master, 7 global master fader level output. You have at least 7 discrete places to affect the gain of any signal coming through Paris. Not only that, you have 4 slots for each of the native and EDS effects, and another 4 slots, which include external sends, and another 4 slots and the EDS inserts on the global master, including a potential external send and return. So you have a massive amount of ability to affect the sound in different ways. Every one of those sections sounds different. The native effects, native DirectX or VST plugins have a completely different tonality and ability to handle gain. Let me start there. Do not push levels on your native plugins. There's no reason to do it. It just sounds bad when it clips. And this is your first clue that Paris is strange in what I think is a very good way. The way your native effects clip is how any other DAW clips, basically, with some minor exceptions in some specific cases. But generally, the nasty, ugly cack sound that you get out of clipping a wave plugin or any other type of native plug-in is the only option you have in most digital devices, most dolls. Don't go there. It's ugly. It sounds bad. You don't want to push that. As a matter of fact, you may sometimes have to put something with an input gain control as the first slot to pull the gain back if you're going to do much EQing. Don't clip there. It's a bad place to go. Okay, skipping that, going on down to the EDS inserts. That's a great place to push level. Do this. Drop an EDS insert in and neutral it out, where it's zero gain, output gain. It's zero threshold, and it's a 1-to-1 compression ratio. It should do nothing. Just drop it in there, and you should toggle it in and out of the circuit. It should do nothing whatsoever. Open the window up. It'll be opened if you've already set that up. And begin to increase the output gain on the EDS insert. And listen to what happens. Crank it up till it clips. Crank it up till it clips badly. You're not going to hurt a thing as long as your monitor levels are reasonable. And then pull it down. And what you'll hear is it's not linear in the way it loads up and lets go. It's much more analog. It can subjectively be even a useful type of distortion for depending upon what you're doing. That's your first clue there's something going on inside Paris EDS land that's not normal. But just do that experiment. Then I'd have another suggestion for you. Pardon me here. Using as your basis to begin with the stock preset compressor, drop a compressor in, and go to the smashed preset. Okay, smashed is 30 minus 30 threshold, 20-to-1 compression ratio, 0 attack. That's ugly, and 12 dB of gain. It basically sounds horrible. Is maybe too strong, but close. Pretty much all the Paris presets except Opto do not really sound good to me at all. Okay. Starting with smash as your basis, crank the threshold up to maybe minus 15, depending upon the level of signal you're dealing with. Leave the ratio at 20-to-1. Leave the release alone. Take your attack to about 0.0005, about 0.005. Let me double check that. Yep, somewhere around that, 0.005. 0.0005, there's an extra 0 to the left. Thank you very much. Leave look ahead alone. And take your output gain down to 0, then begin to raise it up. Now, I suggest you try this with like an acid drum loop, some kind of drum track, something percussive, and then begin to crank the gain up far past where it should be clipping, and listen to what happens. I think you're going to be happy about that. I do have one caveat. I'm not sure, this is going to be a shocker for some of you guys, I'm not sure that on the Macintosh the EDS compressor controls are mapped correctly. The Macintosh EDS compressor seems to behave differently with the same settings, in my opinion. In my experience, it's limited, but I was shocked to do things that I'm normally doing the PC with the EDS comp and have it not sound good at all. And I begin to get an insight into why so many people, I think, have said, hey, what's the deal? I can't get anything out of the EDS comps. If you're on the Mac, that may be a legitimate beef. There may be some mismapping there in the control parameters. Ooh, cat's out of the bag. But I think that's possibly the case. Anyway, moving on down. So you've slammed some gain there. On down to the famous, by now fairly famous, trim knob, EQ trim knob. I'll pop a window open. It's over here. You can also expose it on the mixer. And this guy is really a strange thing. The trim on the EQ, let me give you some kind of a sort of a graphic description. If we're at 24 bits of audio, in my case I'm at 16 bits of audio, it appears that the bit depth is substantially greater than that in this area of Paris. To tell you the truth, I don't know what the bit depth is anywhere in Paris at any point in time except at a DirectX plugin. Anything involving the EDS hardware is proprietary. They never totally released it. But whatever's going on there, you basically can turn the gain down on the EQ trim and have no sonic penalty. You're not increasing your noise floor. You're not doing anything. You're not losing bits. You're nothing. You're just dropping deeper in this vat of bit depth availability. You can also, in some strange way, push the gain up. This works much better on low-frequency items. It doesn't seem to be very happy with transient stuff, and it doesn't seem to be very happy with high freaks. But for a bass guitar, you can just start cranking up the trim, and you'll be shocked. It'll sound like it's hitting a piece of 456 on a 2-inch MCI. To me, it just starts getting fat and spreading out and sounding cool. Use it to taste. There'll be a little bit of grunge on the top end, but that's no different. I mean, I've recorded everybody from Nathan East to Abe Laboriel to John Patitucci to Dave Hungate to Glenn Worf to you name it. I've recorded a lot of big bass players. Big ones. Who's the biggest? Patitucci put on a little. No, just kidding. Anyway, sorry, John. But yeah, I don't know, man. He might have been eating a lot of pizza. I can't tell. But a lot of times, great bass tracks are not real clean. They're kind of greasy. They're kind of messy. I mean, at least in a pop track. I guarantee you, solo up "Flea" on a Chili Peppers record, it's going to have some spaghetti sauce on it or something. And so, don't be scared of this retaining this pristine tonality soloed. Drop it out of solo. Listen to the track. That's the context in which you want to raise the gain in the track, in the mix, and see what it starts doing for you. Yeah, you can overdo it, but then again, it's a sonic option. I don't know anything else that sounds exactly like that in the digital domain, even any plugins. It's just got its own thing it does. So play with that. So you've got gain there. Now, if you clip there in the EQ section, it's a completely different sound than if you clip in the EDS insert section. Go figure. Which sounds totally different than if you clip behind the fader. On down to the fader. If you're really slamming levels like I tend to do with the EDS comps and or the EQ trims and the various things and cutting hot in the first place, by the way, I do recommend blinking the red lights on transient drum type, percussive type sounds on P.A.R.I.S. I do not recommend any red lights on the P.A.R.I.S. Analog input cards at all if you are doing a sustained type sound, vocals, bass, big keys, things that tend to be more steady state energy wise. I would not push into the red on the analog domain there, but that's a separate issue from once you get inside of P.A.R.I.S. Don't be scared of red lights; they're your friend more often than not. If you're slamming levels across the whole mixer in front of the fader, you're going to have to run your fader levels a little lower. Obviously, if you're right at the edge of zero or clipping on a number of different channels and you run a lot of those faders close to zero, you're going to run into trouble, even though there's a lot of ability to absorb punishment and a ton of headroom built into the P.A.R.I.S. mixer bus. A lot. But just be reasonable about that. If you want P.A.R.I.S. to sound open, pristine, clear, clean, run conservative levels. Record at 24 bits. Chill out. Give it a lot of headroom at all the various stages. Don't look at it. Don't see any red lights come up. And it'll sound very open, very clear, very clean, and still warm. But if you want to rock and roll a little bit, you want to get into pop records, you want to sound like you're on the radio, push it. Push it a lot. I would say compression on an individual per channel basis is every bit as important as any EQ there is for being competitive in the current market. That doesn't mean the whole thing has to sound squashed. You can compress heavily on individual channels and not compress the bus and sound really transient and open. Or you can compress on individual channels, compress on the bus, and buff up a little bit more and sound a little more like a lot of records sound today. Or you can chill out on individual channels, not compress heavy, lean into the bus, compress that, get compression there. That's yet another tone. It's very much more like learning an analog console than it is about a digital box. Moving on, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about how to EQ, how I EQ. EQ is so subjective. I like air. I think the top end of the P.A.R.I.S. EQ, EDS EQ, sounds better than the bottom end. The bottom end's a little loose, a little flappy sometimes for me, a little bit soft for me on the bottom. The middle and top are great, killer to me. Especially lift. I tend to lift a little bit of air up at 10, 12, 15K, even sometimes 17K on a lot of different things that I want to sparkle and have kind of a sheen to them. P.A.R.I.S. does that extremely well, in my opinion. Look at my list over here. 16 versus 24-bit, the giant raging debate. I cut 90% of what I cut in P.A.R.I.S. at 16 bits. Sounds great to me. As a matter of fact, well, I don't want to get into that whole debate. I've satisfied myself by doing A-B direct comparisons. Do your own. Record 24-bit, copy the files, render those at 16-bit and AB. I mean, you can do your own thing. It's easy to figure out what you think. I know what I think. I know what a lot of people I've worked with think. And so I cut it 16-bit most of the time. Yes, there's mathematical formulas for why I'm having bit loss when I do DSP processing through native plugins, why I've got this, why I've got that. And that's all really cool and everything, except, I like the way it sounds. So I guess there you go. Tape my eyes up. Try this. Here's another thing. When you pull your little trick up, like I was talking about on the EDS comps, and you do your thing there, at unity gain, 0 threshold, 1-to-1 ratio. Close your eyes, put the mouse on that gain knob, close your eyes, and move the gain, and use your ears to tell you, ooh, that's now starting to sound crunchy. Back off a little bit where it doesn't. Then open your eyes and see where you're sitting. I think you'd be shocked. I think you'd be very shocked. Okay, moving on down the road here about some automation. The automation seems like it's real mysterious to people. A lot of people start trying to access it from the C16 initially. Don't do that. Learn the automation with the mouse. It's easy. What's the channel I'm not using? That's muted. Okay. I'm going to go over here. E, arms automation. That means right. E for right. That makes sense. A for automation. In this case, play. A is play back the automation. Let me just roll Jesse here. I'll turn it down where I can kind of still hear what's going on. Okay, take this fader up to 0. Hit E, click on it, move it around some. That's cool. Now, hit play again, play it back. It's going to play back. I'm not going to spend much time on this, guys, really. Come on, start moving, Brian. There he goes, move it around. Alrighty. If you don't like what you did, just grab it with the mouse and move it a different way. That's all there is to it. I mean, I don't get much more complicated than that. If I want to go ahead and automate this thing, Aaron, which mixer is more visible from that camera angle? The right one or the left one?
Not a lot of difference.
Okay, great. I go to sub mixer 1. I just flick my C16 over there, and I'm going to go to big old channel 14. Now, if I want to automate from here, I'm in C16 classic mode. I got a blue one, but I'm on classic mode, so forgive me for that. So if I want to automate from here, here's all I got to do. I'm now playing. I'm going to write some more automation. As a matter of fact, I'm going to zero the fader. Okay, I'm now in automation mode. All I did was just tag the top button. I'm now writing. I'm now automation mode. The button's no longer flashing. You can see it pop back to where it thought it was supposed to be. I'm going to engage again, auto takeover, boom, writing some more. Hit the button again, pops back to where it thought it was supposed to be. So to use automation from the C16, just with the mouse, in Pro mode you can do it from the C16, but with the mouse, arm the channel, arm playback, engage automation mode from the C16. It's different for the Pro mode. For the Pro mode, you use the button labeled auto. For non-pro mode and classic mode, you press and hold simultaneously these two buttons, the right button and the whatever that other button is. Got me, I guess, fader select. And you'll get a quick flashing light there. At that point, any button you hit arms the automation and unarms it, and you'll see it flash quickly as you go in and out of automation. It's just that simple. Now, in this case, I didn't want any of that automation. So I'm going to go to automation editor number 1. I'm getting out of sync here. You can see what I just wrote there. And I'm going to go, well, I don't want any of that. What automation? Gone. Okay, so we'll get into the automation editor later. That's it for automation. Pretty simple. I tend to automate most of the time with the mouse. There's no moving faders on P.A.R.I.S. That didn't totally bum me out. I wouldn't mind them. Doesn't kill me. P.A.R.I.S. is pretty intuitive. I have no problem writing stuff with the mouse. If I get something real tricky, I'll just arm a fader and lock it up there and do it to it. Let's see. Automation. There you go. Normalize. I've heard people talk about that. Let me go to this thing that I'm not using for anything. I can reset. Pull this thing over. Okay. Normalize. Let's say I've got a bunch of faders set whatever, and this is going to actually mess up my mix, but I'll live. It's not that big a deal. Okay. So I got a bunch of faders, different places, and I go, if you'll notice, I just happen to have channel 16 muted. That's going to make it easy for me right now to show this to you. I'll go to myself, I wish all these faders were back 5 dB. I've just got my levels up too hot. I'm cranking, I'm killing. Okay, I'm going to take this fader that I'm not using, or a fader I am using, and crank it to all the way to plus 10. Why, you say? Well, because of this. It's kind of a goofy thing, the normalized mix. It wants to say, I've opened this window up, you can't see it right now, it says 0.0 dB. What this box says is, what's the highest you can have a fader be? What is this? Any fader, what's the highest you want it to be? I now have my highest fader at plus 10. I'm going to go, well, 5. Bang, all the faders just dropped 5 dB. It was just that easy. If I don't like that, I could go, I meant 10. 10's what I meant. I'm right back where I was. It's just that easy to do. It's just why they didn't have an offset, just a value to add or subtract, I don't really understand, but mine is not the reason why. Mine is about to do or die. So I put everything back just like it was. I moved it around. I trimmed the whole thing. One caveat, and this is an owie here. If you have group automation, if you have grouping enabled, you'll double trim the group faders. Yes, in fact, you will. So, unfortunately, this trick doesn't work well when you have group faders unless you ungroup and regroup them, which ends up being as much hassle as just moving the thing. So, that is how you normalize, trim a mix. It works real well. I don't think I went through that too fast. And then let me talk about soloing. P.A.R.I.S has an inherent solo limit of 3 solos per mixer. I'm not going to explain. I know why. I'm not going to explain why. There's a limited amount of buses available for outputting. Now I am explaining why. But the problem is they had a limited number of output buses, and they did not do a check solo, which is a mute solo, which means when you hit a solo, whatever. I'm not going to go into all that. They did an AFL-type solo that toggles to a completely separate bus. That's why there's a solo. It only happens on the monitor outputs. It doesn't happen on the main outputs at all. I got my little macros set up, but you can do it with key commands if you really want to, waste your time. I'm sitting here going, I want to hear whatever I want to hear. I want to hear the whole thing. I want to hear this one submix. I'm just going to do a select all, cut it in outline, and go bang. I'm soloing. That's all there is to it. In place. And when I'm finished soloing, just hit undo. Boom. How hard is that? That's quicker than hitting a bunch of solo buttons than going back and unhitting them, or at least as fast to me. That's an in-place solo, stereo perspective with effects. If you're mixing, that's the deal. So you really have an AFL bus for kind of a fail-safe soloing mode when tracking or working with players or whoever, and the normal traditional solo button on P.A.R.I.S. If you want to solo more things or in place and with effects, just do a thing where you put the outline where you want to start hearing things from, select all, cut it in outline, and then do the play selection. There's a play selection button on the C16. There's also a play selection button on the editor. I'm not going to go in the editor now, but I just kind of blew solo off for the most part, except for the quick check of, am I getting signal and is it clipping or something, like I would have used an AFL bus on an older console. Instead, I just now use the editor for soloing, and once you get used to it, yes, it would be nice to have the other option, but as a workaround, I find it to be a minimal intrusion, frankly. What else about the mixer? Spank it, man. Take some time, clip it. You can't blow anything up. Just don't have your monitors up too loud. But clip a DirectX plug-in. Push the gain up until it starts going squawk, and you'll hear what DAWs sound like when they clip, which sounds awful. Then crank up ADS compressor until it starts clipping. It's a completely different area, a completely different world of clipping. It doesn't sound anything like the DirectX section when it clips. And there's a happy place you can find in there where it just has that kind of energy to it, that kind of bite and energy to it that to me great music tends to have. The EQ trim knob, mess around with that. I will say this, I don't think I covered this a minute ago. If you put a bunch of gain on at the EDS insert zone, you're not going to be able to put any gain on, maybe any gain on, at the EQ section. The EQ sounds completely different when it clips. The EQ section clips nasty. It's not a good sound. It's kind of a quacking duck sound. It's pretty gross. But short of the hard clip, it sounds really cool. The EQ section does not clip frequency independent. It actually clips differently depending upon what frequency the program material it's hearing is. on a whole mix or on something that's broadband, you don't have a lot of elbow room there. On something that tends to be more bassy, bottom end, and especially a round bass, you might can have the thing right at the edge of clipping, and then put 10 dB of gain on it, and it'll just puff up. It's wild. Don't crank the faders real hot if you're running your channels real hot with these tricks I'm talking about. You'll start shredding the mixer itself, the whole submixer itself. Though it is pretty robust, it'll take a lot. It definitely has headroom beyond zero, but just be reasonable. But anyway, I encourage you guys to sit down and take some time with the gain structure. When I get to the, I'm going to fold that into this thing right now. I'm going to keep going. Where am I at? Did I start that thing again? No, I didn't. Where am I at, Aaron? Do you know how far into this thing? About 15 minutes or so? 20 minutes?
15 left.
Okay. That means I've just cranked about 30 minutes on this mixer thing. I don't know how to do it any faster. I'm going as fast as I can. Okay. Let's move on down the road. Now we get to the gain structure of hitting the submix faders. There's headroom there as well. There's a whole nother, if you will, reservoir of gain headroom on the back side of the submix faders, where those things are summed into the global master. So you're summing individual channels into a 2-channel stream into a submix fader. Then you're summing, in my case, 8 submix stereo streams into a single stereo stream for the global output, the master output. So P.A.R.I.S very much, not only just once, but more than once, sums in a cascading fashion. It's kind of a cascade rather than parallel summing. So I think that's part of the reason it sounds so good and has so much headroom. But on the back side of the submix faders, the master submix faders, you can play with those, drop those down, lower all those the same amount, crank them up to 0. Generally, if you have a lot of channels running, you'll need to leave yourself some headroom in the individual submixes because you're dumping all this audio out of all these separate submixes, each of which is just screaming hot now, into one stereo output, and you'll need to watch that. Again, there's another place to affect the gain, and you're going to get completely different results. If you run those things wide open and really run your channel faders, individual channel faders low, it's going to stay much more open sounding, which can be good or bad. If you tend to run those things lower and crank your channel faders hotter, it's going to sound a little more rock and roll, a little more, SSL compression-ish, if you will. Then on into the insert for the EDS master section. There's a global master. A lot of people have never even seen it. You unmask it over here under settings, under the master mixer window. There's overviews and show inserts. And then you've got the same ability. And I encourage you to, again, take an EDS compressor, set it to 0 threshold, 1-to-1 ratio, 0 gain, and drop it in the global masters. Okay? And then you shouldn't hear it at all. You should click it in and out, and it should do nothing. Start cranking gain in. Just use it, just the output level only. Start cranking gain in, and see what happens. It will begin to actually load into that section of the EDS hardware, and it will start actually tonally changing as it gets a bit compressed and actually has a whole different tonal characteristic than the other sections of P.A.R.I.S. Now, between that I already go through and enumerate, I think, all the stages of potential gain. Let me say this lastly. Once you do all this, you can have the output of P.A.R.I.S just screaming hot and still not shredding, not tearing up. You better give the poor guys down the road a couple of tenths of a dB of elbow room. A lot of consumer CD players will clip if you actually tag 0 very hard. Run your global master at minus 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, at least somewhere in there. Give a little bit of grace to that poorly designed circuit out there that can't deal with the true 0 and and starts going wonky. Now, there are people who have mathematical formulaic approaches. There are people who have all manner of different approaches to all the stuff I've just talked about. I'm not saying my opinion is gospel at all. If somebody else has something they're doing, they're digging the way it sounds, that's great. I'm just encouraging everybody watching this video, if you own Paris, set up something and just take some time to shove each of these sections of gain up and down independently and in concert with each other, and listen to the radical amount of difference you can make in the tone of not even just a single instrument, but the way it all combined affects the overall output. Uh, what the output of my Paris system is giving me level, punch, spread, depth with on par with mastered commercial CDs by to me the best guys out there. Which is astounding to me. I don't say that as a braggadocious thing. It's almost stupefying to me as I'm doing some comparisons. I'm just shocked at what this thing's capable of if you push it. Do not play by DAW rules. Do not play by digital rules. Play by analog rules with Paris, and you'll be a lot happier. It's the opposite of any other DAW out there. That's why I'm still using it, and why I'm going to use it until I hear something better, and I'm not holding my breath at this point. How's that for a ringing endorsement? Anyway, back to young Jesse Dale. I will play some music at some point, a little more. As a matter of fact, I'll play a little bit more as I shut this down and head on to the editor. Thanks for hanging with me. Hey there, welcome back. We're moving on now with the Paris instructional video. I'm Brian Tankersley here with Aaron Allen and the here in spirit Chuck Duffy. We're moving forward now with editor, the audio editor, and the audio window. I guess pretty much everything would be audio, wouldn't it? Here. The first thing about the audio editor is that I think it's extremely powerful. I think it's maligned in comparison to some of the other boxes I've seen. Though there are some other really great editors and definitely some features Paris does not have, there are some things that Paris can do that nothing else that I know of can do. So, the goal to me is to center up on the strengths and try to, cover the weaknesses as much as possible. Hey, that's what we do with artists every day, all day. Can you say auto-tune? So we're going to auto-tune Paris. No, we can't do that. All right, let me start off with views on editor windows. I've got editor 5 up here. Let me, zoom out a little bit. It won't really matter. Okay, this is my typical view. It shows all 18 available tracks in Paris, as you guys know. Hey, there's people creeping across back there. But in Paris, as you guys know, 17 and 18 don't play back. They're just kind of visual storage slots, which is great. To me, I use that frequently just to stash stuff down while I'm thinking about another idea. I didn't talk about the subject of undos yet. Let me parentheses here for a second. Undos in Paris, there are 99 layers of undo on the wall, 99 layers of undo. Take one down, pass it around, 98 layers of undo on the wall. You can decide how many of those store with the settings menu with the undo setup. But the main thing to remember is that there are 99 layers of undo per window. It's not a global thing. It's per window. And so for each of your editors, it has a separate string of undo. So I tend to focus, again, a multi-card system, but I think more and more people that are Paris users now are running into 2, 3, 4 card systems and more. Tend to group similar musical ideas, musical types in the same editor, and then as you're zeroing in on the background vocals and screwing around with stuff, your undo tree goes in and out there. You can leave your bass and drums, you can leave the other things as standalone and actually really kind of push and pull things experimentally and idea-wise with those separate undo trees being your friend. Of course, jails are cool. Let me go back to the views, though, real quick now. This is my typical view. It's 18 tracks laid out. You zoom in, you zoom out, you turn the the grid on and off, those kind of things. I'll go over the tools here in a second. Here's another view. It's a little bigger. You can see the nice, the mute buttons and stuff get bigger. Here's another view. Would be your. Oh, no, I'm gonna say that one. Here's one channel big, the rest of them kind of small. That gives you the ability to actually access here Mutant Solo, which you can already get to, but it gives you metering, clip light, the ability to expand, much more control over the expansion and contraction of the waveform display. It gives you record enable over here as well. So, I mean, that's kind of cool if you're recording. Just make one channel big enough. I think whatever, it's by right-clicking here, anywhere in the blank space, and you can resize individual editor grids. And so that's cool. Let's see. Did I do one for, like if you were in stereo? Here's another concept. Let me roll down here and find something. Let's say you were cutting something stereo. Well, you could actually set up 2 of the channels to get big, and the rest of them small, so you can just kind of see what the heck's going on and stay out of trouble. Now I got to show you one trick. Hang on. Where's the vocal thing? It's flipping over. Yeah, I forgot where I put everything. Here we go. Okay, so here's a vocal. Check this one out. This is really a client pleaser here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I've blown all the tools out at the top. I've zoomed all the way in. I mean, it's paged up as far as it'll go for max size. And then I've stretched the thing out. In other words, maximum zoom factor horizontally, really big vertically. And check this out on the lead vocal. It's Mr. Oscilloscope, kind of a real-time scope. Anybody who has used a scope will know what I'm talking about. Check this out. Okay, check the waveform out. There's a gap there. You can see the crossfades come by. See the T's and the S's. Another little gap here. Come on, hit me. That's just cool. I'm sorry. No way around it. That's cool. Make it bigger. Anyway, just, I mean, what does it really mean? I don't know. It's just a totally cool client factor. You can make sure that he's not too lispy. You know, actually, you can't do anything. Okay, back to the other view. But that's just a cool thing. Shows you how snappy the little bugger is. I think that's not a good word in some countries. Sorry, guys. It's a benign word here in the States. Okay, back to this deal. Let me show you how to comp vocals real quick. No, let me not do that. Let me show you the tools real quick. You guys have seen the tools. Like I said, I'm not going to go over in detail. I have the ability over here to pick what tool I'm looking at. I set that thing up specifically to be able to pop between different things at the crossbar, fade bar in and out, whatever kind of tools. However you get around it. Obviously, you've got different... should I go over this? I really don't want to because I don't think we have time. Let me show you a couple of things that maybe people don't know. One, you right-click here, no matter what your size is at. Let me go to a bigger view. Hang on. Okay. No matter what your size is at, you right-click or shift-click, option-click, Mac, and you go to normalize scale. That's an absolute reference point. You tag the top and bottom, you're there. Or go to switch off a bipolar and go to display. That literally is a clip indicator. I mean, for all practical purposes, you can see I'm brushing up towards the edge and actually tag it right there for a second, which is maybe or maybe not cool. But that is an absolute scale right there. So if you want to really get a look, either shift click, option click, whatever, because you really kind of ever know where you are if you've gone in and out a bunch, right click, that's the deal. That's the real deal. You tag the top, you hit 0. So that's a real good, I think, final reference point to how you're cutting. Just to give you an idea how hot I typically cut, I guess, too. You can kind of see what's going on. I'm cutting like I'm cutting analog. I'm leaving myself. I'm not quite tagging there. So you can kind of get some kind of idea, maybe compare it on that same reference. Crowding a little bit there. Yikes. Hey, it's a demo. Anyway, you see what I'm talking about. I'm using level, getting within a dB or so to maybe of topping out a lot. I do prefer the bipolar display. Anyway, but there you have it. Then that's one cool tool. Let me show you the crossfade deal real quick. Okay, crossfade bars down. I think it's confusing to a lot of people. Check this out. That section. What this is showing me right now, this is what my fade in looks like on this corner. Crossfade bar, you can use it for actually one object or two objects. Let me start over. This is showing me it's an overlapped object. This is the back side of the overlap of the crossfaded object. This is the fade out. This is effectively the fade in or the overlap. Now when I add this object, it's going to show me, okay, now I'm seeing both sides. Now I'm just seeing the left side of the overlap. I'm seeing both sides. Now I can go in here and click. For instance, if I wanted an equal power crossfade, I would click both these guys. And now I've actually got an equal power crossfade that you'll find a lot of times in vocal. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the camera. I'm not a clinician. But you'll find a lot of the time in vocal crossfades, if you're finding that the thing just doesn't sound quite right, if you just drop the crossfade bar, get both sections, and alter the fade shape, especially going to an equal power fade, I think you'll find a lot of times that'll correct issues that you just can't seem to get worked out another way. The other freaky thing is all of these changes are all part of the undo tree. All the little crossfade changes, every single one of them. Now those are actually going to affect the crossfade in the same way as handles do. And I'm not going to go through crossfade handles and all that stuff because, again, I think, that's basic stuff you can figure out on your own. Okay, I'll hit one little thing on that. But anyway, you can taper, like for instance, if you're doing a fade out, very far right. I'm afraid you guys probably can't see this too well on the screen. But you can alter the shape of the fade out, the linearity of it. One other thing about crossfade handles. Let me go down here real quick. Boom, bang, bang, boom. Okay. So option click or shift click will right click PC will allow you to actually wipe the thing backwards. Obviously, the normal left click allows you to wipe the thing this way. So you can actually real quickly do a lot of cool things about tapering things just that way. I think a lot of people somehow have missed that one, but I use that thing a lot. Now, off the crossfades, what else am I doing? Comping. Let's go to comping. P.A.R.I.S is an incredible comping tool. It may not be, in some ways, it's fast for edits. I wish it had marquee select. That'd be great. If it had marquee select, it would rule the planet. It does not, but that doesn't stop you. Again, with the macros I've got set up, it's as simple as select all cut. I might as well, if I was zooming there, and then I've just cut again right there, and then I've selected done. So that's, not quite as fast, but I've selected a bunch of stuff and cut it. Undo a couple of times. So I'm going to just zero in on one little section of the song. Hope the artist will forgive me for exposing their undies, so to speak. And let me show you what I want. The first thing, I don't use freeform. I use conventional, constrained. I think it's called actually constrained. And I know there's a lot of guys that are freeform fans. That's great. Knock yourself out. Here's the reason I don't use it, because I've developed another methodology. I want single button access, keeping with my same philosophy. I want single button access to what I hear always. With freeform, you're talking about, moving things up and down in the hierarchy, top to bottom of the tracks. It just seems slow to me. If that's what you want to do, that's great. I've got enough cards that I can dedicate an entire card to vocal overdubs, like lead vocal, or another card to background vocal. Sometimes I end up with, modern day stuff, boy bands, you might end up with, 60, 50 tracks of vocals at different points. So I've got that flexibility. Even if you don't, though, even if you've only got one card, or especially two cards or more, I suggest that when you go to work on vocals, if it's the time to do vocals, lead vocals, bounce to disc. You can do a virtual submix update if you want. I wouldn't even do that. I would get the mix sounding cool, and I would bounce to disc. Then I would go to the audio window, select last recorded files, drag those into an editor. They'll be time locked. Drag those, if you have the time lock selector on, they'll be time locked, and use that as what you listen to. Everything will be snappy and hip and good and fresh. Even if you want to open up some new editors, that's fine, new submixes, and switch the cards. When you get down where you can then, however you do it, get yourself where you can allocate a brand new, fresh, clean editor submixer card that's your input to the vocals. When you do that, You don't have to do that if you're running a limited number of vocal overdubs and you're not going to comp from a bunch of tracks. I just like the separation and the clarity of it. Anyway, at that point then, I've got the C16 assigned to that submix. And let me show you first. I'm going to go into solo mode here on this thing. And what I'm going to do is, you're seeing on the screen, I've just soloed up a pair of channels. That's the wrong mixer forwarded. Okay, so I just soloed up a pair of channels. In this case, 11 and 12 are soloed. Now, 11 and 12, I just copied, I think it was this guy here. I just copied this guy down. Let me just do it again just so you guys know what I'm doing. Okay, right click. I'm going to copy that down. I'm going to copy that again. So now I've got adjacent, identical tracks side by side. I was using the time lock selector. Now, check out how P.A.R.I.S, when you mute and unmute via the C16, or really even via the mouse, but when you mute and unmute in P.A.R.I.S, it actually doesn't just do a hard mute. It does a quick fade, a super quick, probably 20 millisecond or so, it seems like, crossfade, down and up. But if you're hitting two buttons at the same time, one muted and one not, it's seamless. So I'm going to now play soloed. I'm just going to play a loop of a phrase. I'm going to switch. You'll see my hands hitting the C16. When I'm hitting the C16, I'm starting off with one muted and the other one unmuted. So I'm just going to tag back and forth randomly as fast as I can go. You see if you can hear me switching at all. Here we go. I'll start off with it muted so you'll know, and I'll play one singly so you'll know I'm not using any tricks. This is just the way this deal works. Let me turn loop on. Okay, here we go. Everything's muted. You're hearing nothing. There's one side. See? There's the other side. Now, okay, now I'm going to start just switching crazy. You're hearing alternating tracks. Okay, the only time you ever heard anything is when I messed up. Now I'll play it back without switching anything. One more time. The only time you heard anything was when I actually wasn't precise about hitting the buttons. I missed one. Other than that, so it's a seamless crossfade. Now, great, whatever. Yeah, I don't comp in real time, but the fact is, what I find is, if I'll dedicate it where I can get to stuff that quick, put it in a loop, start rocking along, I can get this flow of work accomplished without the discontinuity of switching and stopping and this and that and the other. So here's how I comp. I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about. Okay, no vocal, just playing back. I got 5 tracks on. Well, let me do this. I'm wiping these guys out. Gone. I'm going to comp to 9. I could be comping from however many tracks. First track. Sharp. Moon's good. 2. Like that. Didn't like Beyond the Moon. 3. Okay. 4. Okay. Okay. 5. Now just listen to 5 tracks. I really like the front end of 3. Nope. I mean 2. Okay. Here it comes back around. I'm going to go from 2 to 3 back to 4. I can go through here and go. So what I can do is switch on the fly that way, and I can just get a interaction going with the vocal tracks until I know what I dig. I know what I dig right now based upon listening to that. So I'm going to go up here, zoom in just a little tighter, and then using the mouse at the bottom. You notice I'm using the mouse with my left hand. I won't even get into that whole deal. I've never been, so check it out. As it comes by, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit strange. So I'm just going through here, and I've got them all selected. So as I cut, I'm cutting everything. Boom. Okay, so now I'm thinking to myself, that's a little tight. I'm thinking to myself, whoops, hang on. Let me do this. Boom, bang. So I'm going, they've never, maybe, I don't know. How about this bend? Gentle bend. Watch, I'm going to do every other track too. I know this beyond the, and I think maybe Moon was cool here. Now check this. This is also quick. Make sure auto crossfade's on. Swing, swing. Everything's crossfaded. That'll play back on 9. It'll be beautiful. I've just comped that whole line. Let's see what it sounds like. They've never been beyond the moon. Okay, that's not perfect, but I really wasn't paying that much attention to what I was doing. I could mess with the crossfades. Let's don't say we did. Okay, so let's say I'm going. So I don't use paper. I don't use anything. I just listen to the song until you start getting into a stupid number of vocal tracks. That works fine. You got to get your game face on and be paying attention. You got to zero in. But then I'll move down. Okay, I would go. Okay, that's cool. Now what? Start just before there. That way my crossfade will be cool. Go down here. Go. Here's another vocal line. Let's just see what happens here. Number 1. Sharp on it. Then. Okay, here's what I'm going to do, just to prove a point here. All right, boom, select all, cut it there. I'm going to cut it there. I'm going to actually cut it there just to be stupid and cut it there. I liked, this was a good whoa, but he got out of tune. And I thought this was pretty cool. And let's just see if I can actually get crazy enough to go for this and make it work. So the first thing I'm going to do, grab all these, boom, now I got a cool crossfade everywhere. Bang, so that's done. Now, just to see whether I'm out of my mind, now I'm playing back the comp track. Come on, hit me. No. Okay, I can sit, again, go ahead and bring out whatever. I like to see it make the stupid middle of the word hit faster than that. Sorry, hit the buttons too quick. I didn't like that. But you get the idea. Again. Crossfade bar. Let's see if that'll help me any. Give me a little more. Okay. The beautiful thing is that's going to retain its shape. So I'm just messing around. I don't know if this is working or not. In context. Okay, anyway, I'm not really that excited about that piece of the song. I'm going to go back and show you guys about tuning. How about we'll deal with static, rendering auto-tune automatically in auto mode. That's really not that big of a deal. I got auto-tune dropped on channel 9, which is where I'm comping to. Why 9? I don't know. I like some blank space in between the source tracks and the comp tracks, so I always know what I'm looking at. So I got this one comp. It's not really nailed. But let's just go ahead and work off of this. Okay. As auto-tune comes by, if I want to render it, it's already instantiated over here. Let me pull it over. But it's instantiated in auto mode right now, sitting here, as you can see. So, that's simple. That's child's play. If I like that, I should label the channel. Comp. Oh, man, I'm trying to hurry. It's so hard to get all this in so quick. All right, comp, boom, render selection to disk with native plugin, bam, that is now an auto-tune track, okay? I won't want to double auto-tune it, so I would want to, whenever you render a native plugin, you're going to want to kick it out, bypass it, or else you're going to hear it twice, obviously. Don't let that get you. So that's all there is to it. Now, if I want to do graphical mode, follow me. This is going to go by pretty quick. I'm going to go to the patch bay. I'm going to walk you all the way through this whole deal. Okay, some eyes are wondering. Go to the patch bay. Boom. Ooh, that's a scary patch bay. Yes, it is. It's a very scary patch bay. It's all 8. There's interfaces everywhere. 4 mechs and 4 442s on 8 cards. Actually, the B mech has gotten pulled off and used for something else while we're doing the video. But since we're going to hit the patch bay anyway, I can run through the patch bay pretty quick. I think I can do all this. Okay. You right-click on the little folder icon to create a new patch bay with shift click, option click, right click to create a new patch bay with all level settings intact, +4, -10, everything, all the position of the cards and all that. If you left click to store it, you only store the cable positions. So right click, option click to store the whole patch bay, including all the current conditions of +4, -10, and the card names and everything. Position the cards are in the module, mech modules slot and the whole thing. Left click if you only want to grab the cable positions. So I sit here and, for instance, let me show you this. In this case, I've got video 1. What the heck am I doing here? Is all 16. Let me show you this. That's all 16 channels on a 1-to-1. It's 1 through 16 to 1 through 16. If I'm going to cut a lead vocal, I go boom. 1 goes everywhere. No problem. Good to go. I plug into channel 1 and harmony track on the whole submixer and I'm there. Cutting stereo, guitar, bang. Left everywhere for 1, right everywhere. I'm sorry, left everywhere for 1, right everywhere for 2. Harmony 2 tracks, I'm stereo. Back to where I was, 1-to-1. Boom. So save, again, in your default project, set up your normal scenarios. ADAT transfer, okay, this is my deal for ADAT transfer. Set up a bunch of different patch bays for the common usage you might find, and you can't, I don't think you can get any faster than that. Okay, back over to what I want to do to auto-tune. That was kind of to the side. I don't know if there's anything else about really the patch bay. +4, -10, which slot things are in. I think those are all self-evident. I'm going to use the insert. So this will demonstrate using an insert. You could actually, what I'm going to do with this would also show you how to patch an external device into a channel. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm on channel 9. I'm on submix C, which is on, or submix, actually 5, which is assigned to card C. So I want to go to the C mech. Most of you guys will have an interface. Here's the trick. Dead patch your SPDIF IO. Just run a SPDIF cable, RCA, from in to out and just dead patch it, or it's just a loop, because you need a hardware loop. PARIS has limitations. Some things have to be patched to hardware to work. You can't patch internally necessarily directly from a soft point internally to another soft point internally. Generally, you have to go through a hard point patch. So now I've got a 24-bit path patch, dead patch at the SPDIF IO. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take insert send channel 9 right here and drag it to the SPDIF send left channel. Now I'm sending channel 9's insert send to the SPDIF. I'm going to take the SPDIF return, the input, and back to channel 9's return. I now have a loop. Channel 9 is looping. If I engage the external insert, EDS insert to channel 9, I'll actually be feeding the audio out the 24-bit SPDIF out, back in the 24-bit SPDIF in. That could just as easily be an analog I/O. It could just easily be a light pipe, one of each. I could be sending light pipe, returning analog, sending SPDIF, returning analog. Any combination. I've created a loop with an external send and an external return, put it on the insert. Then all I have to do is go back. I'm going to pull this over for now. I would go back then, and all I got to do is drop external. Bam, I'm good. Now, if I wanted compression sending to the output, I would do so. Now, if I wanted compression on the return, I would do so now. I don't, and in this case, all I want to do is just send auto-tune. I got channel 9 playing back the comp. I got auto-tune inserted. I have the patch in the patch bay to and from the SPDIF dead patched, and I've just kicked the external in. Great. What have I done? Actually, nothing. I've accomplished nothing so far until I do this trick. I'm going to go to channel 10 of the mixer, clear it, and also return the SPDIF to channel 10 of the mixer. So now the SPDIF return is feeding both the insert return on 9, so that's cool, but it's also feeding the mixer, not the insert return, the mixer input to 10. Now I go back to where I was, ARM 10, and if I've done my job correctly, you can see the same exact signal is now returning to the insert return of 9, but it's also being returned to the record input, the mixer input of 10. So now anything that comes through 9 is actually being recorded at 24-bit depth back over to 10 as well. So now anything I do with auto-tune is going to print that way. I'm dragging the mixer off, but and I hope you followed that. So now all I'm doing is recording with that trick, digitally 24-bit recording the output of the insert of 9 back over to 10. Beautiful. Now what am I going to do with Auto-Tune? By the way, Auto-Tune 3 does not work in graphical mode with several DX applications, Paris among them. So, pop Auto-Tune open. Bring it over here. No longer, I would normally have this on a separate screen because it's going to get a little crowded over here. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to graphical mode. Great. Track pitch. Beautiful. Here's the key. Pete Stewart, thank you for turning me on to this. Pete Stewart's the one that figured this out as far as I know. If somebody told Pete, then you get the credit. You have to pick a locate point and always start from the same place until you render, until you print it. Not such a big penalty. I'm starting at the top of the phrase. I've just set a locate point, capture, tracking pitch. I just want to mess with that much for right now. I've just got a graph now laid up here. I'm going to zoom in a little tighter. Yes, he's a darn fine singer, but I'm going to mess with him a little bit just to prove a point. So here I go. What I'm going to do is tune him up real nice and then make one note completely ruined. Okay. I'm going to overtune him more than I would. I'm looking at the thing, so you got to figure out how to use Auto-Tune graphic mode on your own. I'm just going to basically point out that you can. And then I'm going to make this whole note a half step high. Sorry, Jesse. Kill me later. Okay, now I have to hit locate and start from the same place. So I get all this laid out. I've got all this stuff done. I do whatever else I want to do, however many phrases I want. Ready to rock? Okay, beautiful. Record, play. That was beautiful, wasn't it? Really? Okay, so I now have 10 auto-tunes. To demonstrate that, I'll mute 9, playback 10. 10 has no plugins. This is 10 playing back. So I can sit there and use auto-tune, and all I do is start at whatever I think need tuning. I make notes about it. Just set a locate point before the phrase of interest. Make sure and go back there every time for play. Set it. Hit track pitch. Play. Do your graphical tuning when you're ready. Just hit record play. Boom. You're printed over to 10, 24-bit bounce. You're cool. Rock on. In this case, I would just go, okay, beautiful. Next. Oh, sorry. Auto crossfade. Next. Next phrase. So that's how I do it. Sometimes I tune as I'm going. Sometimes I don't. I mean, I think, that's getting down into some musical concepts. But that's why I don't use freeform. If freeform will get me where I'm going faster than that, bring it on. Somebody tell me how to do that, and I'm all over it. Because right now, I'm feeling pretty cocky about how fast I'm getting vocals comp. I'm easily amused, I suppose. So I'm losing that. That's so ugly I can't ever hear it again. That's comping, tuning, bouncing to disc. That's a little bit of the patch bay. Let me show you something else. Let's go over to where some drums are sitting. Is there some drums I can find here? Oh, arg. Okay. Check this out. This is pretty cool. By the way, the drums on this thing are just a pretty decent acid program. Nothing specially magical going on about those guys. Let's see here. So, I just did this. There's acid. Basic groove. Let's just see what we got here. I'm going to solo it. Oh, you thought I was going to hit solo buttons, but I'm not. I'm actually going to switch this over here and I'm going to... Okay, now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Check this out just for fun. This is some edits. This is, a little bit of the other BT, the fake BT, Mr. Transo. Actually a really talented guy. I mean, if you like talent, I guess that's cool. Me, I think talent's overrated. Anyway, just kidding, Brian. Never met you. Sure you're a great guy. Really, seriously. Good stuff. Okay, check this out. I'm going to cut this up kind of freaky and just do some weird stuff with the acid loop. Now, this is just something that happens to be sitting on this song I'm going to mess with. First of all, as you guys know, if you shift click, the little now line will snap to the grid. In this case, I got the beat bars grid. I'm laid out correctly. I should probably actually show you how to do that if you're messed up on a song. If I hold down Shift Control and K at the same time, I've just cut. But watch as I click and drag along that line, you'll see I'm cutting. I skipped one part, didn't I? I didn't tell you what I was doing with the other thing. But I just can sit here and cut. So I just cut this whole little drum thing, a la sort of beat detective style, into 16th note chunks. In stereo, I could do the whole submix that way if I wanted. Vocals, guitars, whatever you wanted to do. By the way, back over here, there should be a cooler way to do this. There's really not that I know of. If you want to change the minor time division value of the grid, the beats and bars grid, just change the divisor and the time sig. Okay, just go over. There you go. And then I'm getting jiggy with it. And sorry, that's about as funky as I go. And then 30-second notes. And I've done that for some stutter effects, 64ths. So you can change the grid at will. It makes your beats and bars counter look pretty freaky. So anyway, I've got this all laid out. It hadn't hurt me any. I'm quite sure that it still sounds just like it did. Paris, being as musical as it is, it really, you're not going to get clicks and pops probably just from what I've done. Let's see if that's true or if I'm crazy. Okay, so I've cut that all up. And, I'm not saying any of the things I'm about to do are a good idea. But at this point, I could sit here and go, okay, I wish this was, oh, wait, snap. Boom, sorry. Turn snap on. I'm snapping out of the grid, and I'm going to, get ahead of myself. Forgot to do that. So I can change how, where it'll snap to. Not so different than acid, maybe, something like that. Something like that. Oh, I should have left one of those there. Right-click copies, left-click moves, as you know. And who knows? Maybe we'll do something like this and this and this and see what that sounds like now. Probably going to be pretty sad. So, you could do whatever you wanted to do. Also notice that fearlessly, I just plow through totally shredding on this thing. Have I saved in a long time? No. But I'm just going to undo my little booty. That's going to get old. So many undos. Wow, what all did I do? Whatever. Okay, I don't want to deal with that. Glue tool, where are you? You there? There you are. Boom, boom. Time lock. Okay, so again, the single touch macros are cool there. So I'm saying that's another thing where you can use the beats and bars grid line. Now, if let's say, I hate to do that now, but I guess I will. Let's say I didn't know what the beat. Let's say I did not know what the tempo was of the song. I didn't know. It wasn't laid out. It wasn't cut. It started on one of my systems. I'm trying to work in beats and bars and stuff, but it's not that cool. I'm not gonna demonstrate. I don't have time. But basically, do this. Find the first recognizable beat of the song that's like anything related to a click, and trim right up to it. Okay. Then cut. Figure out exactly where that is, and then delete time. I'm going to show you that. Insert delete time. Go to the editor, hit delete time. What you'll need to do is mark exactly where the song starts, where some recognizable form of beat starts. Exactly. And then delete, take the now line to 0 and delete the space, enough space across all submixes to jam that up where it's right at 0 on Paris. Okay? Then simply guesstimate the tempo however you want to, adjust Paris tempo, and follow it further and further out, watching the grid lines to see if they're moving to the left, then your tempo is too fast. If they're scooting to the right, kind of drifting to the right, your tempo is too slow. Go out to the end of the song and you can line the whole thing up. Then, if for whatever reason you don't want to start at 0, that's fine. Just turn snap on and drag the whole mess, or insert time using beats and bars. Insert time and scoot it over 4 bars to the right, so you got 4 bars of counting, whatever you want to do. But I'm saying it's really highly advisable to try to go ahead and work in beats and bars if you can, even if the song didn't start with you. It's not that hard to set up if you're just methodical about it. Cut to the very top, then adjust Paris tempo until it matches, assuming it was cut to a click and assuming it doesn't, drift all over the place in some insane fashion. What I wanted to do is show you pasting some stuff on the fly. Is this, where was I doing that, dude? Oh, there it is. Oh, cool. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, check this out. So I'm going to show you using cut and paste for vocal things. I think these will be easy to figure out. These vocals come by. Check this out. Doggone it. Sorry. My bad. Okay, here's these background vocals at the end. I'm going to turn loop off. Anybody think I should turn loop off so it'll play? Okay, here it goes. Background vocals at the end. Turn them up. Goodbye, Jesse. Goodbye. Okay, that's waiting at the end. The thing's already actually faded out by then. So here's what I do. I actually went ahead a little earlier and just rendered one set of these down. So I'm going to nuke these. You're out of here. This is what I rendered earlier. That's just one set of them. Okay, all I did to make this really, really slick, I cut it. When I cut this thing, I cut it exactly to a grid line. How I did that, let me show you. Shift click, boom. I have a shift button on the side of my mouse. Shift click, cut it in outline, lose it. Okay, now I've got this thing that's referenced to the downbeat exactly of a click. I'm going to go back because I like it a little more lead time here for the reasons I'll show you in a moment. So I'm going to put this in the buffer, copy, matter of fact, cut. The little yellow line in the Paris thing, I got to put on the track I want to paste to. But watch what happens now. Make sure I turn that back to, yeah, that was going to screw me up, wasn't it? Okay. Ooh, I better make sure it was on. Yeah, I am quarter note. Okay, so I'm going to play this thing down, back up a little bit, and let me just drop these vocals where I think that would be cool. On the fly. On the fly, dropping them vocals in. Come on. Now I'll wait a quarter note later and see what that feels like. That sucks. How about this? So I'm sitting there just. That's why you really want. I mean, and talk about you got some guys in here singing and you've done a big background vocal package. You got 12 or 16 or some insane number of background vocals, and you cut the thing, and you're just going down and you're just dropping them into the vamp or whatever on the fly, and it's playing back fine. It sounds great, and they think you're a genius, and that's beautiful, and there you go. So hey, it's all about looking like a genius whenever possible. Faking people out. And the thing is, a couple of things about pacing like that. For those of you guys that are new to that, it really doesn't matter. Like these two guys, it doesn't really matter. Let me zoom in. I keep forgetting how small this whole thing is. Actually, if I was really a nice guy, I'd figure out something. But it doesn't matter that they don't have to all be aligned at the front. It's whatever is the earliest item that happens. So I could have 16 tracks here of craziness going on. And as long as I had one guy cut clean, and he was the first thing of any of those audio objects, and that guy was cut clean, it's not going to affect anything at all. As a matter of fact, I'll show what I'm talking about. These guys will come in late. It'll still snap just as well. There it goes. Come on. Where am I? That's beautiful. Almost cool for about a 16th note there. But I'm saying it doesn't have to all be cut to the same thing. So just, extend your guy out a little bit. There's some other more exotic ways to do this. There's a thing called sync points. That's like the logic concept of anchors, audio anchors. I don't want to get into that. It's intense, and this is just easier. And the thing is, if you have to drag it further left than you really want it to be, in order to get it to line up and paste it, fine. Paste them, and then just select all the, let's see, watch this. Redo, no, undo, I mean, yeah. Then I can just take all these guys. This is the guy, just take them all. And just like, just a little bit and trim it back down. The other, conversely, if the most convenient reference point for you musically is actually a little bit into the audio when it starts, it's okay. Cut off the front end. Just cut a little bit of the front end off if you have to. Toss it. Copy that thing, paste it down. Then when you're done, let's say I've done that, you just select the whole track and go, okay, I need to expose that part again. It's faster than messing with all the other stuff, and you can get, if you'll lay out the beats and bars, and again, let me go over it one more time. If you're working on audio that didn't start at your place, or that you don't really know what the deal is with the tempo and stuff, you got to figure out the tempo. Worst case, take your stopwatch and count beats for 60 seconds. However you want to do it, get an approximation. Then go to the first place the click or the beat, whatever the drum groove starts, and cut right there, toss everything before that away, and just using insert delete time, schlep the whole thing down to 0. Okay? To do that, you want to make sure your now line's at 0, and then whatever amount you put in there will be cut out and everything will be shifted to the left. Okay, then now you got a 0 start. Now you can sit there and just manipulate P.A.R.I.S tempo. You may have to get down. A lot of times I'm down to the hundredths of a beat per minute, back both decimal places to the right, to make it really right, and make sure it's right as far down to the song as you can. But you should start at the beginning and nurse it along and just make it line up until you get to the end. It should take you all of 5 minutes the first time you do it, and all of 90 seconds after that. And then you're set. Then if you want the thing to give you some intro count in, cool. Now, obviously, if there's something that has to be synced back to something later, this won't work. But in 9 times out of 10, that's not the issue. All right. Render. There's a bug with render regarding crossfades and how you crossfade that causes some offset delays in time. Making things late. I'm not sure exactly what the deal is with that. It really almost never affects me. I tend to do relatively symmetrical crossfades, and I tend to have everything touch. As far as I can tell, if your crossfades are relatively symmetrical and both objects touch fully, you really don't have a problem. Gaps in crossfades and really asymmetrical crossfades seem to be the issue. I'm not sure what it is. Hopefully it'll get fixed. Last but not least, always name the tracks you're rendering in the mixer before you render, because then it will assume the name of the mixer of the mixer channel as opposed to whatever default path you've selected. Okay, I think I've hit most everything. Did I hit the oscilloscope? Yeah, that was cool. Hey, I think I made it. Okay, go to the audio window real quick. A couple things in the audio window. There it comes. You can see there's a load of files in this bad boy. Ooh, yeah. Oh, man. Anyway, audio window real quick. Functions. If it comes up and you got files missing, it'll tell you. If so, just hit select missing. Once you hit select missing, hit search for files. There aren't any missing, but search for files. It'll give you a window to navigate. Go snoop around in there till you find them. Okay? That's pretty simple, but sometimes people miss that. And then, pardon me, compacting files. Don't do it, ever. Never compact files. Blow it off. Pretend it doesn't exist. Gray it out. It's not an option. If you want to make a consolidation of your files, hard disk space is not that cheap. I don't even bother, but I can understand why somebody would. Make a copy of the project folder. Just copy it. Hopefully to another drive. Just it'll copy a lot faster, obviously, than back to itself. Copy it to another drive. Then open whichever one. Select unused. Bam, there's a lot of stuff. Okay, there. And then hit delete files and nuke it. You've got a whole backup copy that's cool. Blow it, just blow them away. Blow the whole mess away. And then make sure your project plays back. Look, make sure everybody's got his guy. Make sure everything's cool. Then you're safe. Then you're cool. As far as trying to compact segments down and stuff, I think that's insane. Hard disk space is too cheap these days. I think that's asking for nightmares. If you want to consolidate down, blow stuff away, make a copy, select unused, and delete. That'll save you however much space you can. Let me go into a couple of other things. If you've got something coming to you from Pro Tools, get waves if you can. They're simpler than SD2s. If you get SD2s, you just import. You have to append the .sd2 to it. If you can get wave files from a Pro Tools guy, have him render them contiguously from whatever point where they all have the same start. You'll need strip wave, stripwav, strip wave. Just do a net search, $25 shareware. Give the guy that money. Get StripWave. Run the files through StripWave. It'll extract all the data header stuff that Pro Tools needs that you don't want on Paris. It'll make it not open and work right. Then just import the things into Paris. Use a time lock selector. Drag them in, and you're done. That's it. Boom. That's as complicated as it gets. WAV files with all rendered as contiguous files from the same start time. StripWave. Add audio files to Paris. Boom, you're done. If they don't have a .wav at the end when the Mac guy gives them to you, you got to put it on there yourself. Okay? As a matter of fact, I can find a utility that does that automatically, have it on Chuck's website. All right. I mix a lot of stuff that comes from Pro Tools. I do that all the time. It works great. It's foolproof. Do I use OMF? No. Don't even use it. Maybe it works great. Maybe it doesn't work. I don't care. I don't have time. I want my own template anyway. I don't want to import somebody's other stupid thing. I want a complex template. I just want to drag the audio in, schlep it to the tracks in the order I want to see it in, start working. It's just not that hard. Okay, a couple other functions. I don't use anything but just a CD program, a CD app to make CDs off of Paris. Without getting back into the 16 versus 24-bit thing. By the way, how far am I down here? Ooh, baby, I'm rocking. Okay, better hurry. Without getting into the whole 16 versus 24-bit thing, I don't care what you think about that debate. You got to be 16 bits to make a CD, an audio Redbook CD. So, whether you want to bounce to disk at 24 bits, and then, let me show this real quick. Okay, boom. I'll go ahead and go to 24 bits. You'll notice that says 16 bits, but set record path. By the way, you can only record 24 bits to the PAF format, as you guys probably know. But you can record to SD2 or whatever you want. Okay. I'm resetting my record path to PAF with some bogus name I don't care about. And 24 bits. Now, let me go down here someplace. Let's go to the top. Let's say I'm going to make a real short CD. Toggle bounce to disk on. Boom. Give me a dialog box. Mix down. Yes, I love that name. Okay. Okay. Let's say that was the whole song. But it was a short song. Whoa, that was neat. Really short song. Okay, simple. Now I go select last record files. Boom. I don't even have to guess where they are. I don't even care what I named them. There they are. Swing. Time lock selector on any editor. Boom. There's my record right there. Yeah. Whoop. You can't see boom. I'm dragging stuff off the screen. I keep forgetting. Okay. So there it is. Let's just say that's the whole record. I can go over here and go, ooh, is that a tight enough cut or not? I don't know. Might have actually got in late. I better listen to that. It's very quiet, isn't it? 8. Where's the sub mixer 8? Gosh, sorry guys. Spacing on you a little bit here. External. Let me put some different channels here. Hang on. Snap, boom, good. Play. Selection. Okay, actually, I was a little tight when I started that thing. Here, I kind of lost the front end of it a little bit. I don't need to have that view. Smaller view. Yeah, it does. Sure does exist. Okay. Okay, here we are. If you guys are following me, I'm going kind of fast. Okay, so I've got this. This is my whole song. It's at 24 bits. How do I know it's at 24 bits? I can verify that. It should tell me, and the dumb window that didn't open up far enough, 24 bits. Now, I got a problem. I can't. What am I going to do with that? Am I going to dither it down? Not me. I got no use for dither. Dithering's for sissies. If you're making classical music, feel free to dither. I don't have time. I never hear it. Matter of fact, I challenge you to take this test. Do your own stinking dither. See if you can hear it. I know some people say they can. They're not recording as hot as I am, I guarantee you. I can't let those meters fall that far down. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to do. Boom. Now, I would name this whatever the name of my song wanted to be, whatever that is, and the other side of it, whatever that is. And now I'm just going to go, okay, great, beautiful. Help me. Render selection to disk, boom. I now have a 16-bit copy there. Okay, I just rendered it 16 bits. Now, if I wanted to put an L whatever on the thing and render with native plugins, I could have dithered that down to 16 bits from 24 bits. I don't care. Now I have a 24-bit and a 16-bit version of the same thing. Okay, beautiful. That's a really dumb name. But it's up at the top. Now I'm going to go over here, and I have, oh man, that's ugly. Does last recorded file select that? Oh, isn't that incredible? That's great. Yeah, deselect that. Okay, select last record files actually shows renders as well. So now I've got this thing. I'm sitting here with these two files. Unfortunately, they're not adjacent and they're not whatever, but it doesn't really even matter. This is worst case scenario. I go export stereo file, boom. I want it to be a wave, boom. I name it whatever I want. I export it. I have a stereo interleaved wave at 16 bits. It's ready for to make a CD. Let's say, one other wrinkle on this. Let's say I decided this wasn't what I wanted the final mix to be. Let's say I didn't like that intro. I really hadn't planned this. This is all on the fly here, guys. So give me a break. I'm going to cut that off. Now check this out. Without an external audio editor, without going anything funky. Goofy faders. Sorry. Oh, no, actually what I want is I want that to be where the song starts. That would be cooler, wouldn't it? Okay, so now if I want that to be the deal, this is really sad that I made this such goofy looking names. I can copy that over, those segments, let go, and look what happened. It just made segment 001. That's what I'm looking at there. It made a new segment. It will have done the same thing down here in stupid name. What was I thinking, man? Same deal. I've just selected those. That's really stupid. They're not adjacent. But I just selected those, okay? Now I can export stereo file from those. That's the edit. That edit's good to go. That edit will export just like that. And I make a CD off that as well. So, I mean, why? I can see using another editor, but I mean, I think sometimes maybe my stuff sounds louder and punchier because I'm not going through an editor. Did I just say my stuff sounds louder and punchier? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. It just kind of came out. But we're getting pretty close to over here. I don't have a whole lot more time to go. There's more stuff I could show you. But I don't ever use anything but Paris. I just end up making CDs off of that, and they're smoking hot. They kick booty. People dig it. There you go. You can export a 24-bit thing too. If I wanted a stereo interleaved 24-bit wave or dual mono, but if I want a 24-bit wave stereo interleave for MasterLink guy or whoever, somebody wants to deal with that, then here's what I would do. Last thing with the audio editor. I would go and select that file, and then I would go export stereo file. It's going to be 24 bits. Just do wave, bam. There it is. It'll be 24 bits. It can't be played in wave and Paris directly. Okay, I think I'm pretty close. There's probably stuff I didn't get to. I wish I did other stuff. The automation editor, should I keep burning until we run out of tape? Do you care? Do you think that makes sense? Automation editor, real quick. Let's say I want to cut and paste the fade on the song. Where the heck is it? Okay, here's my automation. Now, I'm going to have to make this real quick and dirty. But here's a fade. I'll show you how to... there's a fade and a mute, okay? There's the master fader. I'll have to re-enable that because I think I turned it off. Boom. Okay, so here goes the fade. Okay. Okay, now let's say I wish I had done the whole fade. This could be any kind of automation data, and I could have done anything I wanted to with it. But let's say I wish the whole fade had happened sooner, and I don't have a convenient place. And let's say it's a solid line, where whatever it is, and I want to start it. Boom. There's a now break it now line command that's been implemented. So now I broke it to now line. Now all I have to do is select that. Boom. Okay, I got that. I'm going to go cut. I'm going to go back and go, I wish it would have faded out. There. It did. It's a dumb place to fade, but nevertheless, it's going to fade here. So I can take and grab any chunk by using the cut it now line, which works on the automation data, works on a fader data, just like it would on an audio object. I can actually cut the chunk I need to move and then either cut it or copy it and move it over. So I could actually copy, doing that, using offsets, using markers, or using whatever I want to do. I could copy automation data anywhere. I'm running out of time, guys. I wish I had more time. Maybe we'll do another Paris video. I'm running out of time. I don't want to stop in the middle of it. Yeah. There's other things I could show you about cutting across all submixes. Insert and delete time is capable of moving everything simultaneously. There's more stuff I could share. That's as much stuff as I could get to on this go-around. I hope it's been helpful to you guys. To the guys in the Paris News Group, great talking to you, sort of in person. Wish I could meet you in person. Have met some of you. Hi to the ones I've met. For anybody who's still hanging with Paris, you got ears. That's all I can say. You got ears. Okay. Out of here. Gotta go. Where are we, Jesse? Bye-bye.